For someone who's been dead for 3,000 years, Nefertiti's name and face are easily recognizable. But beneath the famous name and iconic bust is the story of one of Egypt's most enigmatic and fascinating figures. Shrouded in mystery despite her immense fame, the life of Nefertiti is one of intrigue, revolution and tragedy that's left historians begging for answers. Right then, chaps and chapesses, get ready to dive deep into the mystery of Queen Nefertiti. But before we get cracking, if you're all for tales of those who've shaped history, do give this video a like and subscribe to Portraits of the Past channel. And while you're at it, drop us a comment below about which other powerful and influential queens of ancient history you'd like us to cover next. Alright, time to explore the grandeur and intrigue of Queen Nefertiti. To begin with, we don't even know where Nefertiti came from. We know she was born towards the end of the reign of Amenhotep III around the 1350s BC, but exactly where and to whom are unknown. Her name means the beautiful one has come, but no records survive to tell us who gave her that name. We do know that her wet nurse was a noblewoman named Tay, who was married to a powerful courtier named Ai. One theory holds that Ai had an earlier wife named Yui, who died during or after Nefertiti's birth, and he remarried to Tay shortly after, which is why Tay became her wet nurse. Now, it's also probable that Ai was the brother of Amenhotep III's Queen T. Ai shares many titles, appearances, and a town of origin with Queen T's late father, who also held the rare title of God's Father, which is usually given to the father of the Queen, and which Ai was granted after Nefertiti took power. Ai, being related to the royal family, would explain his prominence during and after Nefertiti's reign, and explain how Nefertiti ended up catching the eye of royalty. This theory would make Nefertiti a cousin of a future husband, Akhenaten. Royal incest was a known habit in this period. Amenhotep III even married his own daughter, so a cousin marriage such as this was hardly unusual. That Nefertiti's childhood and family are shrouded in mystery is an appropriate start for a life that will leave more questions than it answers. Nefertiti was probably just a teenager when she married the recently crowned Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, later known as Akhenaten. At first, the reign was normal. Nefertiti appeared alongside her husband in religious festivals and official meetings like any good queen would. They fulfilled their dynastic duties by having a daughter, Meritaten, within their first year of their marriage. More daughters followed, with Meketaten by year 3 and Akhesenpaten by year 5. The first signs of Nefertiti and Akhenaten's uniqueness were showing. All of their early children were named after a minor solar deity called Aten. Akhenaten was obsessed with this god, and he began elevating it above all other deities. Nefertiti joined him in this obsession, gradually supplanting older gods in art, inscriptions and public events with this god of the solar disk. So why were the royal couple obsessed with the Aten? Where did their belief in him come from? Well, no one knows, and it's a mystery that underpins both of their lives. We can only look at what they did and try to speculate from there. Their behaviour would have angered the powerful priest of the established gods, but Akhenaten and Nefertiti did not seem to care. In fact, they openly attacked their authority. In the 4th year of their reign, the royal couple built a small temple called the Gempar Aten inside the sacred sanctuary of Amun in Thebes. It was a blatant snub to the old gods. Nefertiti took pride of place in this temple, featuring in many inscriptions and images. In some scenes, Nefertiti was shown holding Egypt's enemies on their knees and raising a mace to smite them, an act previously reserved for Pharaoh's art alone. Even the way the art was drawn was a statement. Nefertiti and her husband ignored traditional artistic conventions and had their artists paint with bizarre and exaggerated proportions that made their art totally unique. Clearly, Nefertiti and Akhenaten were subversive. They used their new reign to attack the old gods, prop up a new one, and spit in the face of artistic convention. In all of this, Nefertiti's prominence shows that she held enormous power, much more than the average Egyptian queen, and she was not afraid to use it. She was a rebel with a throne and an entire nation to shape as she pleased. Around year 5 of their reign, Nefertiti and her husband shattered tradition by abandoning Thebes to build a new holy city at the modern site of Amarna. Fragmentary inscriptions offer a tantalizing hint at terrible things that drove the royal couple from Thebes, but like so much in Nefertiti's life, the truth remains obscure. Most likely, the religious powers that tried and failed to oppose the royal couple, but scared them enough that they sought the safety of their own new city instead. At about the same time, Nefertiti adopted a new title of Nefer-Nefer-Uaten, the perfect beauty of the Aten, to go alongside her husband's formal adoption of the name Akhenaten. This religious devotion was seen all over the city. New temples, new priests, and not a single depiction of the old gods show that a new religious age had truly begun at Amarna. At Amarna, Nefertiti pushed her public profile to the next level. Every day, she rode a chariot down the main avenue of the city in full view of her subjects. This was not the behavior of a typical queen. Nefertiti sat alongside her husband at public ceremonies as an equal partner, and their artistic depictions converged to the point where Egyptologists sometimes struggle to tell whether a statue or relief is supposed to depict the king or the queen. Now, the greatest mystery of this phase in her life is what exactly she believed and why. Why did the royal couple become so devoted to the Aten? Did they really believe he was the only god, as some texts suggest? What convinced them of this? These questions don't just prod at the mysteries of Nefertiti's life, but try to uncover the truth behind a major religious moment in human history. Understanding Nefertiti's faith might be the key to the origins of monotheism, in which lie the roots of the faith of billions of people today. And through it all, we shouldn't forget that Nefertiti was a mother as well as a queen. At Amarna, she had 3 more children, all named after the Aten or the old sun god Ra, who was associated with him. Nefer-Nefer-Uaten Tasheret, Nefer-Nefer-Ure and Setepenre joined their older sisters in the royal household by the 10th year of the reign. Now, it's obvious that Nefertiti adored her daughters. Amarna's palaces are awash with their intimate scenes of the royal family's daily life. We see Nefertiti playing with her daughters on her lap or enjoying a meal together. Previously, official art was almost entirely religious or ceremonial, but Nefertiti decided to enshrine her love for her children in her art instead. This love makes the later years of her reign even more tragic. Her second child, Meketaten, died at around 10 years old. Surviving art shows Nefertiti and her husband grieving over the body of their daughter, an unprecedented insight into the royal family's personal life. More tragedy followed, with Setepenre and Nefer-Nefer-Ure vanishing from the record soon after, presumed dead as well. In fact, only one daughter, Ankhesenpaten, is certain to have outlived her. But Nefertiti's motherhood has another mystery. We know of 6 daughters, but is it possible that she had a son as well? While she flaunted most conventions about art, the old Egyptian tradition of rarely depicting sons was upheld. Historians are confident that the famous Tutankhamun, born Tutankhaten, was a son of Akhenaten. But unlike the daughters, we don't have any depictions to prove it. If so, then who was his mother? Nefertiti would seem the obvious candidate, but she's the only wife known to have had children with Akhenaten. But DNA studies of Tut's mummy suggest he was the product of an incestuous union between Akhenaten and an unknown sister. Akhenaten certainly had plenty of sisters, but Nefertiti wasn't one of them. Some Egyptologists have noted that the genetic results from Tut's mummy are unclear. It might instead be the product of multiple other incestuous relationships in his family tree. This could include his parents being cousins, which, as we've seen, leaves Nefertiti as a potential candidate. These children became more important with Akhenaten's death after 17 years in power. Nefertiti probably wasn't even out of her 30s, but her life was about to get even more confusing. 2 pharaohs emerged towards the end of, or just after Akhenaten's reign. Smenkhare, who married Nefertiti's eldest daughter, Meritaten, ruled for a year or so alongside or just after Akhenaten. He was probably a brother or nephew of Akhenaten, but it's his successor, Nefer-Nefer-Uaten, who connects us to Nefertiti. Nefer-Nefer-Uaten was actually a woman, and there are only 2 serious candidates for who she could be, Nefertiti or her eldest daughter, Meritaten. The fact that Nefertiti had adopted the title of Nefer-Nefer-Uaten years earlier sounds like it should settle the debate easily. As we've seen, Nefertiti held much power than a normal queen, so if any woman would secure her place as pharaoh, it would be her. However, Neferuaten also had titles held over from Smenkhare, which would be more fitting for the widowed Meritaten to have. We also know from diplomatic gifts sent to her that Meritaten outlived Smenkhare, but we have no such certainty for Nefertiti outliving Akhenaten. The last confirmed piece of evidence for Nefertiti's existence is an inscription from a quarry near Amarna, dated a few months before Akhenaten's death. The debate might be settled by a box found in the tomb of Tutankhamun. It bears the names of Akhenaten, Meritaten, and Neferuaten separately. Not only would this eliminate Meritaten as a candidate, but Nefertiti is the only person who would be named equally alongside them like that. If so, Nefertiti reigned for no more than 3 years, and what she did in that time is a mystery. We have virtually no known monuments, nor documents, nor artwork. One of the only concrete things we have is an inscription mentioning Neferuaten in Thebes. Given that Nefertiti abandoned Thebes years earlier, it might show us that she had returned to the city in her final days. The inscription also references Amun, suggesting that she reversed the religious persecution of her husband's day, but we can't be sure. If Nefertiti really was Neferuaten, then she died no later than 1334 BC. With her death, the crown passed to the boy King Tutankhamen, who backpedaled on Nefertiti and Akhenaten's religious reforms to restore traditional worship. Tut was only about 9 years old when he came to power. Nefertiti, being his real mother, could explain why she ended up on the throne in the first place. She would not be the last woman to act as regent for her son. It would also explain another curiosity. Tutankhamun's famous tomb was filled with items that seemed to be made for Neferuaten. Most notably, his iconic burial mask shows signs of being reworked and having a new face inserted to replace an earlier feminine one. Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves has gone further, suggesting that Tut's tomb itself was stolen from Nefertiti. Tut's tomb is unusually small, which Reeves says is because it's just the first few chambers of Nefertiti's larger tomb, hastily repurposed when the boy king died young. He insists that Nefertiti lies in a hidden chamber somewhere in the tomb, still waiting to be discovered. Another theory is that Nefertiti's mummy was found decades ago in a tomb dubbed KV35. DNA tests suggest this woman was the mother of King Tut. Studies have noted the similarity of the mummy's appearance to the iconic Nefertiti bust, but the catastrophic wound across the mummy's face says this woman had a violent end. A violent end might make sense given how Nefertiti was treated afterwards. Following a brief reign by Ai, who might have secured power through his connection to the royal line via Nefertiti, Tut's next successor, Horemheb, took a hammer and chisel to Nefertiti and anyone associated with her. Nefertiti, Akhenaten, Tut and Ai were erased from official records, their statues destroyed, their temples dismantled or appropriated by the new king. Officially, within a few years, Nefertiti never even existed. So was Nefertiti eliminated to put an end to a controversial life? Does she really lie a few meters away from Tut in a lost chamber somewhere in the tomb? Time and further study might yet give us the answers. Nefertiti vanished for the next 3,000 years, until archaeologists began excavating at Amarna in the early 20th century. There, Nefertiti was found again for the first time in millennia. Then in 1912, excavators found an incredibly well-preserved bust of the Queen buried in an ancient workshop. Despite the ravages of time, a missing eye, a chipped ear, and countless other scratches and blemishes, the timeless beauty of Nefertiti's face was undeniable. A reflection both of the amazing art of her reign and of Nefertiti's living up to her name as the Beautiful One. This dazzling bust is now one of the most iconic art pieces in the world and has turned this forgotten queen into one of the most recognizable faces of the ancient world. But in trying to unravel her mystery, we've found even more mysteries to fill their place. Where did she come from? What was she trying to do? And how did it all end? And where is she now? Historians still hunt for the answers, and we can hope to find those answers soon, but it's doubtful we'll ever be able to answer everything. For now, Nefertiti remains a fascinating mystery, well deserving a spot as one of ancient Egypt's most popular faces. So what mystery about ancient Egypt would you want to know the answer to? Let us know in the comments down below. And while you're at it, check out some of our other videos delving into the captivating lives and legacies of historical figures on portraits of the past.